Hey friends, tonight we re-going full torchlight madness mode and asking a question nobody put on their history test, but absolutely should have. What was BRAINROT like in medieval times? You know, BRAINROT. That special condition where your mind turns into a stew of pop culture references, paranoia, and very strong opinions about fictional pirates. Today we use it to describe the unique mental mush that comes from spending 6 hours debating which dragon from a video game is the most kissable. But guess what? Medieval people had their own flavor of it. They were rotted to the core, just with less Wi-Fi and more superstition. So buckle up, pour yourself a chalice of questionable wine, and let's take a walk through the rotted minds of the Middle Ages. First up, medieval brain rot symptoms. Forget doom scrolling. Medieval brain rot came with seeing omens in literally everything, eclipse, God is angry, bird flew backwards, which nearby, obsessing over demons, stub your toe demon, toothache, demon, entire village dancing until they collapse, definitely demon, fear of the unknown cranked to 11. If you sneezed too hard in front of a monk, you risked being exorcised or exiled, or both. They didn't call it brain rat, obviously. They called it sin, or madness, or the devil tap dancing behind your eyeballs. Let's talk causes. Because medieval brain rat didn't just show up, was lovingly handcrafted by society like a cursed sourdough starter. 1. Religion. The original brain melter, it started young. You're 6 years old, learning that if you think a bad thought, an invisible man might roast you in fire forever. Cool. You retold that illness, ISNT, caused by bacteria, but by God being super annoyed with your general vibe. Plagues were a divine Yelp review. Also, saints were role models, except their stories were nightmare fuel, getting your eyes gouged out for faith. Brain rat. But make it inspirational. 2. Medicine. But make it worse. Medieval medicine was the equivalent of WebMD. If it was run by a sleep-deprived raccoon with access to a leech farm, your head hurts. Obviously, your humors are unbalanced. It's time to drain your blood and maybe rub some crushed emerald on your scalp. Some believe the brain could overheat from thinking too much. Solution: trepanation, aka drilling a hole in your skull to let the thoughts escape. So yes, brain rot could be literal. 3. Isolation plus illiteracy equals fantastical mental gymnastics most people couldn't read. Books were rare, expensive, and chained to walls like they might commit crimes. If you did get to hear stories, they were usually from one of 3 categories: sin, miracles, or sins disguised as miracles. Lack of real info? Check. Fear of everything? Check. A village elder who insists he saw the Virgin Mary in a cabbage? Absolutely. Cultural side effects: mass hysteria. Entire towns convinced themselves they were cursed or possessed. People danced non-stop, screamed in Latin, or tried to baptize chickens. Witch hunts. Any woman over 30 with a cat and opinions? Obvious threat to society. Pilgrimages. A long walk to a sacred toenail because traveling hundreds of miles to touch a saint's femur was considered a mental cleanse. Flagellants. Groups of people who whipped themselves in public to say sorry to God. Basically, the 1300s version of posting a long apology video online. How brain rat manifested in different folks' nobles, thought they were appointed by God, built cathedrals to cleanse sins and executed people who annoyed them. Casual divine delusion. Peasants worked 12 hours a day, ate turnips, and still blamed their cows' infertility on fairy mischief. Clergy simultaneously preached humility and hoarded relics like the medieval version of Funko Pops. Scholars spent years debating if women had souls while believing unicorns were real because someone sent a narwhal tusk in the mail. Treatment plans: bloodletting, popular, messy, and based on vibes. Herbal concoctions sometimes helped, often caused hallucinations, occasionally turned you into a minor cult leader. Prayer and fasting, useful if your problem was having too much serotonin. Burning the possessed, 10/10 not helpful. Dancing plagues, screaming saints, and bottled ghosts, all right. Welcome to part 2 of our brain rat journey, when mental illness, social pressure, and religious vibes combined to form the absolute weirdest public events in medieval history. Let's start with one of the most iconic. 1. The Dancing Plague of 1518? No, this isn't a medieval musical. This was a real thing. One day in Strasbourg, a woman stepped into the street and started dancing. Nothing too weird, right? Except she didn't stop. She danced all day. Then overnight. Then the next day. Soon dozens of others joined in. Some danced until their feet bled. Some danced until they collapsed. Some danced themselves to death. And the city, instead of assuming mass hysteria, they built a bigger dance floor and hired a band. That's like seeing someone have a panic attack in the grocery store and deciding the solution is more jazz. Historians debate what caused it. Stress, ergot poisoning, or the medieval version of a TikTok challenge gone too far. But whatever it was, it's peak brain rot, too. Holy relic mania. Medieval people loved relics. And by loved, I mean obsessed. Someone told you they had the genuine toenail of Saint Sebastian, people would walk across continents to see it. Churches competed like they were in a relic-themed fantasy football league. You have the finger of John the Baptist? Cool. We have his other finger, and maybe his elbow. Depends who you ask. People believed relics could heal everything from boils to bad luck. Some even drank powdered St. Bones, which means technically, the Middle Ages invented the first overpriced wellness supplement. 3. Bottling spirits. Some alchemists and zealots believed you could trap demons and angels in jars. They would recite prayers, burn herbs, then whisper to a flask and seal it shut. Imagine doing a seance with Tupperware. One guy in the 1400s claimed to have bottled the soul of a sinner and tried to sell it to the local bishop. It went poorly. Others tried to catch the Holy Spirit, which, if you think about it, is just religious Ghostbusters with a worse budget. Institutions, dungeons, and the first therapists. Welcome to the part where medieval brain rat stops being weird and starts being horrifying. Let's talk about what happened when your brain got too spicy for the village. When your neighbors weren't sure if you were holy or haunted, when your symptoms moved from quirky to exorcism is now on the table. 1. The OG asylums back then, mental hospitals weren't cozy places with calming music and warm blankets. They were more like haunted houses that billed by the hour. Take Bedlam. Officially, the Bethlehem Royal Hospital in London. It became the poster child for how not to treat the mentally ill. People were chained to walls. Visitors could pay to poke at them like sad zoo animals, and treatment involved things like ice baths and spinning chairs. Why spinning chairs? Because medieval doctors thought if you spun someone fast enough, you'd realign their thoughts. Basically, merry-go-round meets torture. Monks. The unlikely mental health pioneers. Some monasteries actually treated people with more kindness than the state. Monks offered quiet isolation, herbal remedies, and prayers. Sure, they didn't understand mental illness. At least they weren't attaching leeches to your eyebrows and calling it therapy. 3. Exorcisms. The all-purpose fix if you were hearing voices. It probably wasn't schizophrenia, it was the devil. And if it was the devil, the cure was screaming Latin, shaking holy water at you, and sometimes beating the sin out of your body. There are records of kids being exorcised for having nightmares. People were accused of possession for insomnia. One nun supposedly barked like a dog and was chained up until she got better. Spoiler, she did not get better. For DIY madness solutions, if there was no institution nearby, your town might just lock you in a shed, or tie you to a bed with herbs stuffed under your pillow, or force you to drink wine laced with mercury while chanting prayers. If you died, God must have wanted you. If you survived, miracle. Either way, the brain rat got documented as a moral tale. Werewolves, dirt cults, and psychic goats. Welcome to the part of medieval brain rot where the supernatural was in tea just a genre. It was a lifestyle. When reality got too confusing, people didn't ask questions. They blamed a werewolf, accused the neighbor's goat of fortune-telling, and if all else failed, joined a cult that promised salvation via soil consumption. Medieval logic. Let's take a tour of peak supernatural brain rot. 1. The werewolf trials. Yes, the Middle Ages had werewolf trials, like witch trials, but hairier. People believed that certain individuals could transform into wolves by night and go on violent rampages. These weren't Halloween stories. These were court cases. Imagine being dragged before a judge because your beard grew too fast and your dog liked you too much. Suddenly you're being interrogated about moon phases and meat cravings. Fun fact, in some places it was believed you could turn into a werewolf just by sleeping outside on a Friday. That's it. It's no magic words, no pacts with dark forces. It's just one bad nap. So yes. Medieval people believed in brainrot so intense it could literally turn you into a wolf. 2. The dirt-eating cults. Sometimes brainrot took the form of religious movements that said things like, "Hey, want to be pure? Eat dirt, real dirt, like soil?" And people did it. There were sects that believed holy earth could purge sin. Others thought eating dirt showed humility. Some even claimed it gave them visions. Modern translation: imagine if someone told you licking the subway floor would get you closer to heaven. That's the vibe. 3. Animal oracles and psychic goats. In some parts of Europe, people believed animals had divine insight. Owls were prophets. Cats were spiritual spies. And yes, goats could predict the future. One town believed their goat could sense who was guilty of crime. If the goat stared at you for too long, you were considered sus. Another tale, a goose that talked during sermons. Clergy claimed it was blessed. More likely it was just opinionated. This is the part of the timeline where logic curled up in a corner and quietly wept. 4. Apocalyptic brainrot people in the Middle Ages were constantly convinced the world was ending. Every eclipse, every famine, every slightly unusual Tuesday, someone was shouting, "Repent." Entire groups moved to mountains to await the end of days. Others gave away their belongings, walked barefoot for miles, or voluntarily buried themselves in dirt to prove piety. Brainrot level. Divine meltdown. When the world didn't end, they just revised the date and tried again, like rebooking a doomsday flight. 5. Corpse trials. This one deserves its own TED Talk. Sometimes the medieval justice system got bored and decided to put dead people on trial. One pope literally dug up his predecessor, dressed the corpse in papal robes, and tried him in court. They propped the body up on a throne and screamed accusations, while a poor monk stood behind it answering for him. The verdict? Guilty? The sentence? Strip him of his titles and toss him in the river? So yeah, even death didn't save you from the brainrot. The children weren't all right. All right, grab your comfort blanket or a burlap sack, medieval style, because tonight we peeking into the nursery of history and discovering that kids in the Middle Ages were not spared from the brain. Right? In fact, tiny humans often caught the full blast of adult delusions, religious hysteria, and bad medical takes. 1. Baby Saints and Toddler Miracles. Starter pack for medieval stage parents. Notice your 5-year-old refuses supper. Decide their fasting and holy devotion, not just being picky about cabbage stew. Tell the village. Boom. Instant saint. Dozens of child saints popped up because communities adored the idea of pure, untainted holiness. Kids who muttered Latin in their sleep were declared miracle workers. Some were paraded around, touched by crowds, or actively encouraged to die young for the glory. Modern translation. Imagine if influencer parents tried to livestream their toddlers' visions for clout, only with more incense and a higher risk of canonization. 2. The Children's Crusade of 1212, a field trip from hell. Somehow, a rumor took root that pure-of-heart children could reclaim Jerusalem better than grumpy armored adults. Tens of thousands of European kids, many under 12, set off believing the Mediterranean would part like the Red Sea. Spoiler, it did not. Most never made it out of France or Germany. Many were sold into slavery, died of hunger, or just disappeared. Brainrot rating, 11/10. It's what happens when mass religious. FOMO meets zero logistical planning and zero adult common sense. 3. Demon Day Care. Medieval theologians loved a good possession story. And children made perfect vessels, small, unpredictable, and conveniently unable to mount a defense in Latin court records. So little Agnes has night terrors? Must be Satan Jr. Cue exorcisms featuring holy water bucket showers, relic wave therapy. An enthusiastic priest yelling scripture loud enough to wake the next county. Some kids were even shackled in chapels until the unclean spirit left. Flagellant play. Dates. During plague spikes, adult flagellant gangs whipped themselves through towns to atone for collective sin. Children's sponges for trends. sometimes joined in. Picture 8-year-olds copying TikTok dances, but the choreography is hit yourself with a knotted rope while chanting hymns. Priests alternated between praising the piety and telling them to please stop because it was getting weird even for May 1349. Tiny dancers, big problem kids, and dancing manias. Remember Strasbourg's grown-up dance-off? There were junior editions. In some German towns, groups of children formed processions that turned into marathon dance sessions lasting days. Chroniclers claim the kids shrieked about visions of the Virgin, saintly rainbows, or occasionally a man in black promising candy. Parents tried everything: baths, prayers, bribery. Nothing worked until the kids quite literally collapsed from exhaustion. 6. Classroom of Nightmares education. If you've got any, involved memorizing Latin psalms while a teacher with a stick enforced focus. You spaced out, you got whacked. Which, of course, fueled more anxiety visions and maybe a casual belief that letters were crawling off the parchment to bite you.
Axing?
Apparently, plus textbooks sometimes included illustrations of demons to scare kids straight. Imagine your homework coming with jump scare fan art. 7. Medical care for kids' pediatric health care was basically smaller leeches. Physicians believed children were full of warm, moist humors, basically biological soup. Treatments included bleeding pigeon but poultices sugared mercury for worms. If the kid lived, miracle; if not, God's will. 8. Playtime propaganda. Medieval lullabies and nursery rhymes often doubled as cautionary tales. Sleep, little one, or the plague hag will nibble your toes. Toys, mostly wooden swords or rag dolls that looked like cursed potatoes. Fun, but also training for future crusades or child saint photo ops. 9. Mass child vision clubs. From Italy to England, clusters of kids reported simultaneous visions. Angels dancing on rooftops, the sun spinning, bread bleeding. Adults saw moral lessons. Historians suspect ergot, bread, or contagious attention-seeking. Either way, the kids got famous for a week, then grounded when crops still failed. 10. Outcomes and legacies. Some of these children became pilgrimage legends. Others vanished into labor, marriage, or anonymous graves. What unites them is the adult projection of rot. Every fear, prophecy, and medical myth was downloaded straight into the next generation. So no, medieval parents weren't inventing Montessori ideals. They were feeding their offspring a mega smoothie of apocalypse rhetoric, dubious medicine, and performative piety. Takeaway: if you survived medieval childhood without becoming a relic, a crusader, or a host for Beelzebub, congratulations, you'd already beaten the odds. Court jesters, royal delusions, and aristocratic brain rot. Next episode, we climb the social ladder to see how kings, queens, and professional funny men handled their own cerebral compost piles. Spoiler: when monarchs get brain rot, entire countries feel the draft. Stay tuned. And if your toddler starts preaching in fluent Latin tomorrow, maybe check the bread mold before calling the bishop. Part 6. Court jesters, royal delusions, and aristocratic brain rat. Welcome, noble guests, to the upper mezzanine of medieval madness. Tonight we leave the mud-splattered village and tiptoe into glittering halls where chandeliers drip wax. Lute music drifts through drafty corridors, and everyone smells suspiciously of rosewater masking last week's bath. If you thought peasants were susceptible to brain rat, wait until you meet people with budget. Nothing supercharges delusion like unlimited coin, a divine right to rule, and a retinue paid to say, Majesty, that's a brilliant ideal. Absolutely release live bears at the banquet. 1. Royal hypochondria. Ailments money can't cure. Medieval monarchs had two hobbies: waging wars and collecting exotic illnesses. Every cough became an omen. Every rash, a potential curse. Court physicians equal parts hype men and hazard prescribed. Ground pearls and wine dragon blood poultices, bald eagle broth. King Charles II of Navarre allegedly bathed in distilled puppy fat to fix internal cold. The only thing colder was public opinion once they found out. 2. Jesters, the kingdom's accidental therapists. Court jesters were the original roast comics and the lone mental health professionals paid to mock power, reduce stress, and maybe stop the king from launching a crusade because Mercury was in retrograde. Picture your therapist juggling torches while saying, "Sire, maybe conquering Denmark won't fill the void." Jesters could say what courtiers wouldn't. But one ill-timed joke and whoops, your next gig is headlining in the dungeon. 3. Full-blown throne syndrome. Monarchs who lost the plot. Charles VI of France, convinced he was made of fragile crystal, refused hugs, wore iron splints, and banned brisk dancing near his person. Juana la Loca of Castile slept beside her husband's coffin for months, convinced faithful proximity would resurrect him. Spoiler, it didn't. Henry VI of England spent entire councils staring into space, occasionally breaking silence to quote psalms no one asked for. When kings malfunctioned, regimes trembled. Brainrot at the top meant power vacuums, civil wars, or at minimum, a very awkward Christmas court. 4. Court-wide contagion. Paranoia, as a group project, Brainrot, in palaces spread. Faster than lice in velvet. Poison panic. Tasters sampled every meal. Some courts issued bezoar stone goblets to absorb toxins. Astrology addiction. Royal astrologers scheduled battles. Weddings, even bathroom breaks. One unlucky stargazer predicted doom during an eclipse and was stoned with artisanal pastries for bad vibes. Mirror gossip. Courtiers swore polished silver could reveal traitors' souls. Mostly it revealed spinach and teeth. 5. Alchemical midlife crises. Rulers hitting 40 found a new passion: making gold out of anything not nailed down. Private labs popped up beside chapels. Alchemists burned through budgets cooking mercury, sulfur, and their own eyebrows. Results: 0% gold, 100% majesty. The furnace exploded. But we're so close. Side effect: heavy metal Brainrot, literally. 6. Royal dream journals and prophetic nightmares. Kings documented dreams like influencers posting breakfast pics. Fiery sword, invade a neighbor, white stag, host a tournament. Fish with human faces chanting hymns. Found a monastery immediately. Interpretation was an industry. If your dream clerk suggested restraint, you hired a new clerk. 7. Fashion that warped minds. Pointy poulaines, so long you needed ankle chains. Headdresses tall enough to pole vault roof beams. Velvet doublets stuffed until nobles resembled sofa cushions. Looking fabulous trumped circulation. One duchess believed her hen and hat acted as a divine antenna, relaying angelic stock tips. She invested heavily in relic futures, did not pay dividends. 9. Street poets and midnight laments. Sleepless apprentices roamed alleys, reciting angsty couplets about unrequited love and moldy cheese prices. Passers-by tossed coins or cabbages depending on rhyme quality. Urban Brainrot produced the first slam poetry scene, minus microphones, plus random donkey brays. 10. Riot season. When Brainrot boiled over every few summers, heat plus rumors equaled rebellion. Bakers blamed millers, gives crowds smashes grain silo. Tailors hike doublet prices, gives apprentices torch workshop mannequins rumor of tax on sunlight, gives mob marches to City Hall with umbrellas as weapons authorities responded with curfews. Sermon marathons and occasionally free ale. City takeaway. Pack animals, packed houses, and packed schedules turned sensible artisans into anxious insomniacs. Add plague stress, exotic spice paranoia, and 24-hour criers, and you've got a cauldron of collective Brainrot garnished with stale breadcrumbs. It's plague doctors, quack surgeons, and medical Brainrot. Strap on your beak mask, light some rosemary, and pretend you know what sterilization is, because we're diving into the blood-spattered parade of medieval medicine. Spoiler: half these cures caused more screaming than the diseases. 1. The Bird Beak Brigade. Fashion meets fatalism plague. Doctors wore leather overcoats and that iconic mask stuffed with herbs, spices, and occasionally dried breadcrumbs. The theory: good smells drive out bad air. Reality: they looked like goth toucans looming over the dying, while muffled voices asked, on a scale of 1-2 buboes, how itchy are we? Perks of the job: 100% job security during outbreaks. 0% chance of being invited to dinner ever again, too. Barber surgeon showtime, need a haircut, and an amputation, one stop. The barber pulls red stripe, that's blood. White stripe, bandages. If you saw it spinning, congratulations, you'd found a man with knives and enthusiasm. Common procedures, tooth pulling via pliers and prayer cupping, suction cups the size of soup bowls. Trepanation Tuesdays, free hole in the skull with every shave. 3. Urine tasting diagnostics. The original lab work physicians carried color charts like paint samples: pale yellow, melancholy, cloudy brown, demon activity, sweet taste. Diabetes, though, nobody used that word. They just said, your pee is dessert. One chronicler bragged he could identify 53 ailments by flavor notes alone, sommelier of suffering. For leeches, maggots, and VIP parasites. Leeches bled you, maggots cleansed wounds. Some texts recommended tapeworms for weight loss, just swallow and hope. Patients paid extra for noble leeches harvested from royal ponds. Same sucker, higher price tag. Luxury brain rat marketing at its finest. 5. Astrological surgery scheduling no incisions while Mars opposes Venus, that causes excessive bleeding and neighbor envy. Surgeons consulted star charts more than anatomy scrolls. Missed the celestial window, and you rescheduled your lobotomy for next month's waxing moon.
6.
Potions that belonged in hazmat aquatofana, popular with disgruntled spouses. Greek fire gargle. Yes, someone tried to drink it for throat ailments. Mercury elixir. Promised eternal youth. Delivered trembling demise. Apothecaries basically ran medieval Breaking Bad labs, minus ventilation. 7 DIY home remedies. Hold my mead. Grandma's cookbook included. Burnt hedgehog ash for baldness. Boiled. Spider water for fevers. Goat brain poultice for migraines. If symptoms persisted, double the dose and add a hymn. Traveling surgeons. Literally hack jobs. Quacks roamed fairs offering quick fixes. Hernia truss fitting, cataract couching, and toothworm extraction. They left town at dawn, pockets jingling, patients groaning. 9. Hospital. More like hostile early hospitals run by monks focused on soul care over wound care. Beds crammed together, one communal sponge, and scents thick enough to smoke salmon. Recovery odds. Marginally above tossed in plague pit. 10. When medicine met miracle, if all else failed, slap on a relic band-aid. Toe bone of St. Blaise for throat issues, belt of St. Margaret for childbirth. And whole entire mummified cats for, well, vibes. Operating theater takeaway. Medieval healthcare was equal parts improv comedy, horror show, and essential oil pyramid scheme. Yet, amid the carnage, a few ideas accidentally worked, proof that even pure brain rat can stumble into science. Monastic mindfulness, hermit hype, and isolation brain rat silence, please at least until the bell rings for Compline. Tonight we slip behind monastery walls, where the air smells of beeswax, parchment, and unspoken anxiety. Think of this as a medieval wellness retreat with a strict dress code. Sackcloth chic. 1. Cloistered chaos. Why monks joined up some craved spiritual focus. Others wanted an all-inclusive escape from taxes, warfare, or therein. Laws. Whatever the motive you traded worldly noise for AM, wake-up chants. A diet of bread, beans, and existential dread. Lifetime subscription to Gregorian Spotify peaceful? Not exactly. 40 sleep-deprived introverts in one stone building and you get spiritual cabin fever. 2. The silence paradox. Orders like the Carthusians spoke only via sign language or intense eyebrow wagging. On paper, serenity. Practice, repressed commentary leaking out as passive-aggressive marginalia. Brother Jonas's handwriting resembles Gotrac's Lord. Have mercy. Monks etched burn book shade in the margins of Bibles because gossip finds a way. 3. Fasting visions and holy hangriness. Extended fasts meant hallucinations starring angels, devils, and occasionally roast chickens performing hymns. Chroniclers praised these divine revelations. Modern dietitians call them low blood sugar episodes. One abbot fasted so long he claimed the Virgin Mary dictated cheese-making instructions. The abbey's Gouda did improve, so maybe miracles are lactose tolerant. 4. Forbidden cheese smuggling. Speaking of dairy, strict rules banned rich foods except on feast days. Enter black market brie. Novices hid wedges in hymnals, swapping curds like contraband cards. A monk caught with illicit camembert could face penance. A week of bread and water and copying psalms until his wrist wept. 5. Scriptoria stress and ink fume brain, recreate copying manuscripts by candlelight wrecked eyes and posture. Ink made from oak galls produced fumes potent enough to inspire apocalyptic doodles, dragons gnawing church spires. Nuns wielding flails basically medieval anime. Margins reveal coping mechanisms. Tiny knights battling snails. Random help me scrawls between psalms doodles of cats knocking over inkwells timeless. 6. Choir practice or sonic torture. Hours of chant built, harmony and headaches. One chronicler noted Brother Ulrich's solo sounded like a cartwheel over gravel. Prolonged exposure led to auditory hallucinations, monks hearing phantom bells, heavenly trumpets, or Satan's kazoo. 7. Hermit hype. Going solo, some monks said, community's great, but what if I lived in a hole? These hermits sought extreme solitude atop pillars, inside hollow trees, or in coastal caves, where seagulls served as involuntary confessor. BRAINROT milestones. Conversing with squirrels about predestination, naming every rock in a 10-meter radius, writing treaties on why bread crust is a metaphor for the Trinity 8. Pilgrim tourism, and miracle pressure word got out. That hermit's tears cure gout. Crowds arrived, shattering solitude. To maintain brand mystique, hermits rationed miracles. Mondays for migraines. Fridays for fertility. Sundays closed for spiritual maintenance. 9. Library of banned thoughts. Monasteries preserved knowledge yet censored anything spicy. Forbidden scrolls hidden behind false shelves featured topics like astrology, love poetry, and advanced cheese fermentation. Discovery risked book burning, or worse, excommunication from the kitchen rota. 10. Enlightened, or just tired. Years of chanting, fasting, and night vigils produced mystics who levitated in prayer, or so witnesses claimed. Modern guess? Micronaps plus sleep paralysis equals floating sensations. Spiritual or neurological? The spectacle kept donations flowing. Cloistered takeaway. Isolation can calm the soul or pickle the brain. Some monks achieved genuine mindfulness. Others spiraled into dairy smuggling, marginalia, snark, and hallucinatory hymnals. Either way, their journals gift us peak medieval #monk life content. Peasant prophecies, farmer FOMO, and rural brainrot. Grab your straw hat and a suspicious turnip, because we are retrudging into muddy fields, where gossip grows faster than barley, and every weird sound after dusk becomes a sign of Judgment Day. 1. Harvest hysteria. Reading doom in crops a bumper crop. God is pleased. A blight. Apocalypse now. Peasants interpreted mildew on wheat as celestial Morse code. One poor village saw corn smut and organized a 72-hour prayer rave to stop Satan's salsa dance. 2. Talking scarecrows and cornfield conspiracies. Field guardians weren't just bird deterrents, they doubled as supernatural hotlines. Farmers swore certain scarecrows whispered weather forecasts or marriage advice. Brain rat or wind? You decide. 3. Potato-based love potions. No spuds yet in Europe. So romance-hungry peasants brewed turnip elixirs spiked with honey, thyme, and maybe stolen holy water. Side effects? Bloating, sudden declarations of eternal devotion, and unwanted hymn singing at midnight. 4. Mud-ruin meteorology before barometers. Villagers poked mud and declared, if the worm curls left, we'll have rain. Entire planting schedules hinged on annelid orientation. When predictions failed, obviously witches bribed the worms. 5. The sheep who knew scripture legend tells of a shepherd whose flock bawed passages of Revelation. Pilgrims flocked to hear woolly eschatology. Local clergy taxed the event, selling indulgences with every bleat. Later analysis, shepherd practiced ventriloquism while bored. 10/10 entrepreneurial brain rat. Mega 6 night plow panic, shadow creatures in furrows late season. Plowing under a full moon birthed tales of furrow fiends riding the oxen. Symptoms: trembling laborers, abandoned equipment, and fields tilled in abstract art patterns. Likely cause: ale plus exhaustion, plus nocturnal hedgehogs. Dung from cows that grazed near relic shrines, sold at triple price. promised to fertilize souls and cabbages. Counterfeiters mixed holy droppings with ordinary poo. Ecclesiastical investigators formed the first poop task force. 8. Village visionaries and barnyard TED Talks. Every hamlet had at least one self-appointed seer, usually an elderly woman with excellent pattern recognition skills and zero dental care. She predicted storms, births, and tax collectors. Accuracy optional. Conviction mandatory. 9. Crop failure chain letters, bad yield. Send a wheel of cheese to 3 neighboring parishes or famine intensifies. Messenger networks spread these proto-spam letters. Ignoring them risked social shaming and theoretical starvation. 10. Festival of the Sacred Haystack, annual post-harvest party where villagers crowned the tallest hay bale King Stook. They paraded it, sang ballads, and asked it political questions. After sunset, they burned it to bless next year's yield. Therapy? Entertainment? Collective hay-induced hallucination? Yes. Rural takeaway. Distance from universities didn't protect brains from rot. Isolation, crop anxiety, and a cosmic sense of humor produced a folklore buffet that still seasons modern ghost stories. Battlefield flashbacks, nightly PTSD, and warrior brainrat sound. The war horns, but maybe plug your ears, because we re-galloping into the mud-slick chaos of medieval combat psychology. Spoiler. Chivalry poems left out the panic sweats, phantom arrows, and helmet echo nightmares. 1. Pre-battle dread and saint lotteries on campaign eve. Knights held impromptu raffles. Everyone drew a patron saint card. Pull St. George. Good omen. Pull a minor martyr with zero dragon-slaying resume. Existential dread intensifies. Some soldiers swap saints like trading cards. I'll give you St. Sebastian plus 2 relic splinters for St. Michael Archangel Premium, baby. 2. Helm hauntings. When echoes talk back. Hours inside an iron bucket amplified every heartbeat, until night swore voices whispered tactics. Dents near the ear canal produced tinnitus symphonies, nicknamed the Devil's Tambourine. Removing the helm sometimes triggered agoraphobic spins. Open air felt too loud. 3. Siege, mange, and trench tantrums. Weeks camped in lice-ridden trenches birthed a rash so common they named it Chevalier's Itch. Combined with sleep deprivation and spoiled rations, irritability spiked. Chroniclers describe fistfights over weevil-ridden biscuits wars version of office microwave drama. 4. Earworm war chants. Songs you can't unsing, marching hymns lodged in brains for years. Veterans muttered chorus lines at random, startling sheep and spouses. The medieval equivalent of 1,000-yard stare plus unwanted karaoke. 5. Tournament crash. Post-joust blues between real battles. Knights hit the tourney circuit for adrenaline and prize money. After crowds dispersed, many experienced crushing emptiness. No cheers, no lances, just aching joints and debt from buying fancy barding. Cue drinking, bragging, and spontaneous sparring with coat racks. 6. Guilt ghosts in friendly fire phantoms. Fog of war accidents haunted soldiers more than enemy blades. One archer claimed he saw the spirit of a fallen comrade every time he notched an arrow. Switched to spear duty, then dreamt of stabbed friends instead. Can't win. 7. Veteran vices. The Order of the Broken Lance. Retired fighters formed informal tavern clubs to rehash glory and numb terror.
Ow.
Initiation involved downing spiced wine through a cracked helm. Motto: what happens at the siege stays at the inn. 8. Armor claustrophobia and smell. Triggers full plate weighed as much as a small goat and trapped sweat until the aroma seared memory. Years later, a whiff of rancid mutton fat could launch a vet into combat stance at the market. Families learned to announce dinner very gently. 9. Phantom enemies and quest compulsions. Some knights, unable to switch off, roamed forests hunting imaginary foes. Locals dubbed them Shadow Rangers. Harmless until they challenged windmills or peasants' haystacks to single combat. 10. Home front misfires, reintegration fail. Returning warriors struggled with village pace. Church bells sounded like siege alarms. Children's wooden swords triggered duck and cover reflexes. Without battle structure, many sought mercenary work or pilgrimage penance, swapping one form of brain rot for another. Battlefield takeaway, beneath steel and swagger. Medieval soldiers wrestled with trauma stripes modern psychology would recognize instantly. Turns out PTSD can wear chainmail, 2. Pilgrimage BRAINROT road trips, miracle merch, and souvenir salvation pack. Your blister bomb and a questionable postcard budget. We are hitting the medieval highways. Pilgrimages promise salvation, adventure, and an excuse to skip rent for 6 months. All you needed was faith, stamina, and the ability to ignore your traveling partner's garlic breath for 500 miles. 1. The relic bucket. This top pilgrim flex. Touch all the body part memorabilia. A finger of St. Thomas? Check. Veil of the Virgin? Double tap. Holy foreskin? It's awkward but stamped. Pilgrims basically played saint-based Pac-Man Go. But every Pokestop sold candles and indulgences. 2. Miracle badge merchants at shrine entrances. Vendors hawked pewter badges shaped like local relics. Wear it on your hat to prove you'd been there and maybe catch divine Wi-Fi. Counterfeits flooded the market within weeks, turning salvation into a knockoff accessories game. 3. Hostel horrors and bedbug benedictions. Medieval hostels, aka Pilgrim. Inns offered straw mattresses, communal snoring, and spiritual bedbugs. Proprietors claimed the bugs were holy companions sharing your penance. 5-star review. Bites everywhere, but my sins feel lighter. 4. Miracle traffic jams. Popular shrines resembled festival grounds. Sermon stages, relic photo ops. No cameras, just intense staring and queue times rivaling modern theme parks. Vendors sold fast-track indulgence tokens. Skip the line. Kiss the reliquary quicker. 5. Roadside profit influencers, wandering visionaries set up along routes, offering hot takes on apocalypse schedules and selling autograph scrolls. Pilgrims tip them bread, coins, or juicy gossip from the last town. 6. Pilgrim pickup lines and romance on the road-long walks fostered crushes. Standard opener. Nice scallop shell. Walk this penance often. Monks warned against carnal detours. But roadside chapels hosted more clandestine flirting than confessionals. 7. Spiritual loyalty cards. 1. Entrepreneurial monk issued stamped parchment. Collect 7 major shrines. Earn a free mass, said for your soul. Early gamification of grace. Forgers quickly copied the stamp using turnip ink divinity on discount 8. Souvenir. Overload syndrome. Returning pilgrims staggered home with bags of dirt. Holy Land edition. Vials of allegedly Jordan water, actually local river, and enough. Badges to sink a donkey. Look, honey, another splinter of the true cross. Wife, we already have 3. 9. Miracle fatigue and relic snobbery. Veteran pilgrims rolled eyes at common relics. Oh, another saint's tooth. Yawn. Prestige hunting escalated. Someone claimed to own the rooster that crowed for Peter. Authenticity questionable. Cluck rating high. 10. Homecoming humbug. Pilgrims expected spiritual glow. Neighbors mostly noticed the smell. Priests gave indulgence. Certificates, but landlords demanded missed rents. BRAINROT twist. Some departed again, addicted to the road's promise of perpetual purpose and badge bling. Pilgrim. Takeaway. Medieval road trips blended faith, commerce, peer pressure, and vacation FOMO into a delirious travelogue of blistered feet and overflowing keychains. Mythic makeovers. Legendary monsters and folklore. BRAINROT sharpen your storytime blades and stoke the village hearth. Tonight, we're poking the beastie-filled underbelly of medieval imagination. When the weather misbehaved or the neighbor's cow gave sour milk, folks didn't call insurance. They blamed whatever lurked beyond the hedgerow. Welcome to Folklore BRAINROT, where everything unexplained must have claws. 1. Dragons. Weather. Apps with scales. Lightning storm. Clearly a dragon sneezed fire at the clouds. Flash floods. Tail swish in the river. Chronic drought. Dragons hoarding all the dew. Nights doubled as amateur meteorologists slay a worm. Stabilize the forecast. Some manuscripts even map dragons to local microclimates. Here be heat waves. Talk about regional monsters. 2. Household goblin management. Every creaky beam or missing spoon, blame a goblin. Solutions included Milk offerings, goblins, lactose enthusiasts, broom bribes, leave out a tiny broom. Hope it tidies instead of trashes loud bedtime prayers. Goblins hate off-key chant. Nerve-prizing nuns sold pre-blessed goblin-proof door. Charms basically medieval pest control stickers. 3. Selkie, suspicion, and coastal. Soap operas fishing villages swapped rumors that certain wives peeled off sealskins at night. Symptoms of Selkie spouse syndrome: unusually good at swimming gazes, longingly at Horizon Keep's house, smelling suspiciously like mackerel jealous neighbors staged midnight beach stakeouts. Convinced the catch of the day was actually cousin. Maud's secret husband. 4. Troll toll anxiety bridge building came with budget for stones, timber, and troll offsets. Villagers stacked goat bones under new spans to prepay any lurking troll. If a crossing collapsed, clearly underfunded offerings. Spreadsheet. No. Bone sheet. 5. Fairy ring FOMO circular mushroom patches, terrified and enticed. Step inside and vanish to fairy TikTok time dilation edition. Peasants roped off rings with warning signs. Enter equals 100 years of jigging. Meanwhile, teenagers dared each other for clout. 6. Whether witches in storm and a jar kit's itinerant charm, peddlers sold sealed jars allegedly containing south wind sprites. Open to summon a gentle breezer hurricane, warranty void if jar drops. Unavailable. Vendor already 3 counties away. 7. DIY amulet. Economy any. Odd. Pebble became monster repellent, once engraved with amateur runes. Cottage industry boomed, guaranteed troll-proof. Fine print. May attract imps. Returns not accepted under. Demonic duress. 8. Bestiary fanfic and merchant exaggeration travelers spiced. Stories to sell exotic pelts. Killed this manticore myself. It's a shaved lion with glued-on teeth. Scribes copied. It's embellished. And voila, European map cluttered with cryptids. None had actually met 9. Nightmare. Cures. Sleep with a knife under pillow. Bad dreams equals hag on your chest. Cure. Iron blade. Beneath pillow. Toes pointing north. If nightmares persisted. Upgrade to full sword. Medieval sleep hygiene. Now with laceration risk. 10. Monster mash festivals villages exploited folklore for tourism. Annual dragon roast. Paper. MCH beast. Stuffed with sausages. Goblin hunt relay races. Selkie spotting boat tours. Fear monetized equals community bonfire and booming ale sales. Portents. Prophecies and apocalypse chic accessories sound the doom trumpets and fluff your prophetic beard hour tour through medieval mindset. Now peers skyward and inward at every omen, oracle, and opportunistic huckster who could monetize dread. If part 13 was all about monsters in the hedgerow, part 14 is the cosmic sequel, because why blame a goblin when you can blame the entire universe? 1. Comets. Celestial unsubscribed messages. Nothing screamed renew your piety plan like a flaming snowball punctuating the heavens. Kings hired emergency choir flash mobs, hoping extra Latin volume might convince the comet to cancel its subscription to Earth. Peasants? They just buried valuables and the turnip patch apocalypse comes. At least the turnips are rich. 2. Eclipse panic and DIY sun helmets. Total eclipse equals daylight ransomware. Folk remedy. Stare through church-blessed sieve while wearing colander hat, double strainer, double safety. Unsurprisingly, optometry wasn't huge back then. 3. Astrology-based life scheduling. Forget Google Calendar. Arrange weddings only when Jupiter sextiles Venus and a fire sign miss the window. Let's wait 11 years or elope under questionable. Stars divorce astrologer later when Mercury retrogrades your marriage. 4. Relic resale marketplace. Need protection from doomsday? By splinter of Noah's door frame. Guaranteed moist. Once a month. Don't ask how. Traveling monks became QVC influencers. Hawking saintly knucklebones on a limited eternity. Offer. 5. Cursed object hot potato that creepy doll isn't possessed. It's a strategic gift. Etiquette manuals advised immediate re-gifting before midnight to redirect hauntings. By Christmas, the same cursed chalice had visited the whole parish like. Secret Satan, but with more rattling chains. 6. Prophecy side hustle economy every village. Boasted at least one visionary Brenda. Charged 2 eggs to hear how a goose in her dream spelled repent. Accuracy irrelevant. Vibes determine market share. 7. Angel spam and dream inbox overload monks recorded nightly in boxes crammed with winged pop-ups. Important, open for divine quest. Spiritual productivity hacks emerged. Charcoal dream. Journals, feather quill filters, and the ever-popular mute trumpet meditation. 8 Plagira. Fashion influencers' beak doctors weren't just medicinal, they set the runway. Kids carved wooden minis, collectible Plague Doc figurines, Series 2 with scented herbs. Limited edition masks sold out faster than Incense 9, End Times playlist, and Doom Carols cathedrals. Hosted apocalypse rehearsals, organ riffs and minor. Key choir chanting Revelation spoilers. Merch table out front flogged parchment lyric sheets so you could sing along when the 7th seal actually broke. 10. Plague mask PPE fashion drops, physician beaks stuffed with rose petals, mint, and the occasional meat pie lunch on the go. Street hawkers sold knockoff masks in velvet pastels because if death's at the door, you'd better serve looks. Through the door slot, courtly crushes, chaperone chaos. It's in tournament tinderancheth, your satin kerchiefs, and tune the lute to yearn because it's romance o'clock in the castle courtyard. Medieval love was half PowerPoint alliance, half Wattpad fanfic, and 100% orchestrated by someone's aunt in a wimple. Swipe right on the moat and let's scroll through the greatest hits. 1. Troubadour. Thirst post-minstrels were basically blue-check influencers, subtweeting dukes with rhymed thirst traps. O fair Isolde. Thy eyes like dawn, please like, subscribe, and Dan thy lawn. Patrons paid extra for unplugged serenades under balconies' early access content, plus the risk of chamber pot. DLC. 2. Jousting for likes tournaments doubled as a renegade dating apps. Knights flashed heraldic profile pics on shields. 1 clean lance break equals instant follow back from the gallery. Bonus. Loser's horse became consolation prize for the lady whose favor he botched. 3. Wax seal emojis and scroll sliding no texting. No problem. Lovers folded parchment into origami hearts, slapped on scented beeswax seals rose, Murrow destable, and bribed a page to ghost deliver. Scene status equals open seal. Left on read equals returned scroll with the seal untouched, and passive-aggressive extra wax. 4. The chaperone. Third wheel livery noble dalliance featured an elderly relative armed with rosary. Hawk-like glare and impeccable cock-blocking XP. Courtship. Hack. Distract chaperone with theological debate while you whisper sonnets behind the tapestry. Works until she's also a licensed theologian. 5. Nightly 5 love. Languages acts of questing. Retrieve griffin eggs at dawn. Quality time, literally an herb token. Physical armor. Gifting chainmail just because. Words of flattery. 14-line minimum. Gifted livestock. Nothing says I burn for thee. Like a slightly used war-goat. 6. Scandalous glove drop. Medicinally on purpose dropping. A silk glove was the medieval equivalent of hay. Pick it up. Engagement speedrun initiated. Ignore it. Public friend zone stamped by half the banquet hall. Gloves became so overused that tailors sold pre-dropped models with theatrical fray. 7. Courtly love. A day. Non-disclosure allegiance because gossip spreads faster than plague. Lovers pledged to keep it mystical. No names, no receipts, only vague metaphors about swans in anguish. Violate the NDA and troubadours dunk on you for 3 album cycles. 8. Merger marriage and dowry DLC romance. Often meant annexing to tax bases. Negotiations rivaled modern venture capital term sheets, asset lists, castle occupancy clauses, and a goat milk equity option for heirs. Actual affection patched in later via Day 2 integration. 9. Cloistered crush Diamenics illuminated manuscripts. With tiny margin doodles inside jokes and secret hearts so, when Sister Philomena borrowed the Psalter, she'd clock the holy flirt. Medieval equivalent of like bombing someone's profile pics during Lent. 10. Pilgrimage meet cute speedrun. Things sparks romance like blisters and relic souvenirs. Roadside hostels acted as single-player lobbies. Swap a scallop shell. Promise prayers at Compostela. Pretend you'll totally write. Wish you were here postcards arrive 6 years late by donkey mail. Feast FOMO. Cauldron catastrophes. And ale-powered calories losing your bodice ties and pre-stretch those hosts tonight. We're diving mouth-first into medieval cuisine, where flavor profile means whatever survived winter. Every banquet is one undercooked boar away from biohazard calla. One gruel. The eternal loading screen breakfast. Lunch and penitential dessert. Texture range, oat puddle to cement risotto. Cook spiced it with optimism and a single raisin found once a quarter like a loot box reward too. Spice flex. Economics pepper costs more than your cousin's dowry, so nobles deployed it like edible. NFTs. Sprinkle 3 grains. Watch dinner guests gasp at your liquidity. Black market smugglers stuffed peppercorns into hollowed-out rosaries. Taste the piety. Officer 3, whole beast, showpieces everything, but the scream banquet planners loved. Frankenroasts. Sew a goose into a pig into a cow, then jam the hydroturducken back into its own skin. Carve it tableside, while minstrels play horrified lute sonata no. 3.4. Bread bowl infrastructure plates. Luxury. Your trenchers stale. Bread slabs. Absorbed gravy until achieving full load-bearing capacity, then became the late-night snack. Medieval. Zero waste. Eat the dish. Complain about the splinters later. 0.5. Lent fish hacks and loophole sushi church ban meat 140-plus days per year. So monks rebranded beavers as aquatic animals and argued barnacle geese grew on trees. Ergo salad. Heaven's legal team still drafting Memo. 6. Ale. Hydration with benefits. Water resembled plague tea. So everyone even toddlers chugged small beer breakfast lagers. Productivity meetings scheduled by ABV. Low strength for chores, high octane. For wedding speeches and regrettable crusade sign dash-ups. 7. Poison tester. Internship program, hot career path, nibble lord's dinner first, hope it's not hemlock aioli. Benefits included hazard pay, accelerated dental erosion, and chance to inherit the spoon if boss died networking. 8. Jellied mystery meat and gelatin goth pick molds. Encased everything from quail to questionable eels in wobbly amber sarcophagi-like. Natural History Museum, but edible if you hate yourself. TikTok of the age. Slap the jelly. Gauge jiggle 9. Sweet savory identity crisis. Cinnamon on lamb, sugar on omelets, almond milk and literally everything. Medieval palate chased novelty like dopamine rats. Desert simply meant we ran out. Of pepper? 10. Communal salt lick etiquette table hierarchy displayed via one massive salt cellar. VIPs sat above the salt. Peasants below. Tip jar for licking privileges. Not included BYO sodium if you value blood pressure and dignity. Dungeon dramas. Judicial jank. And punishment pageantry. All rise. Then please stumble into the nearest mud puddle for authenticity. Because medieval. Justice is now in session. Courtrooms doubled as circus arenas. Lawyers moonlighted as theologians. And every verdict came with free crowdsourced tomatoes. Let's subpoena the chaos. 1. Trial by ordeal. Justice, alley thermometer guilt test. Plunge your arm into cauldrons set to simmering regret. Blisters heal equals innocent. Flesh poached equals certified villain. Speedrun, the appeals process, your epidermis. Was the paperwork too? Hue and cry? Community watch on hard mode, someone swipes a chicken? Entire village sprint streams after the culprit, yelling like TikTok duets gone feral? Tout. Unavailable. Non-participants fined 1 goat per decibel they didn't contribute? 3. Jester paralegal. Crossover events, mall courts hired jesters to read legal complaints in rhyme, ensuring even the plaintiff laughed at his own bankruptcy. Bonus XP, roast the bailiff without getting beheaded equals instant mistrial quip per stocks and pillory. Medieval comments section, strap in. Get pelted with cabbages and watch trolls materialize IRL, like react equals toss bread, report abuse equals guard confiscates. The especially aromatic fish 5. Sumptuary snitches and fashion finds wear silk above your pay grade. Fashion police, literal police slap a coin-draining ticket. Royal decrees read like early access season pass rules. Velvet unlocked only after level 40. Noble Point 6. Dungeon interior. Design. Airbnb but bleaker guards, upsold premium chains, and corner straw with slightly fewer fleas. 5 rat rating system. Escape attempts left delightful wall art prototype visor reviews scratched in Latin. Profanity.7. Outlaw influencer marketing Robin Hood adjacent bandits built forest Patreon tiers. Bronze equals spared wagon. Silver equals custom ballad. Gold equals dinner. With the merry content creators. Bring your own venison. Closing parenthesis. 8. Collective guilt and tithing groups. Live on the same street as Steve the sheep thief. Congrats. You're liable to. Early blockchain. Everyone's reputation permanently linked. Transaction fee payable in hay bales. 9. Coin clip chaos and DIY counterfeit shave edges off silver pennies. Melt into knockoff tokens. And hope no one owns sensitive scales. Get caught. Mandatory hand remove. Lexstream unsubscribe from counterfeiting newsletter. 10. Execution day. Public spectacle and merch. Boothgallo's activity calendar dropped like festival lineup. Jugglers' pie stalls. Commemorative. I saw Sir Reginald swing brooches. If the condemned delivered a spicy last speech. Unofficial bard remixes dropped by supper. Guild gatekeeping, crafting grinds. And marketplace microtransaction churn your quills and oil. Those looms employment medieval style was one big MMORPG. Where the guilds ran HR, LinkedIn was a carved signboard, and every promotion smelled faintly of singed sheep. Equip your journeyman badge. We're speedrunning the career ladder one. Apprentice onboarding and multi-year tutorials want to join the blacksmith guild. First 10-year internship of sweeping sparks and fetching ale. Salary, exposure to hot iron, literal. HR policy. Survive, then maybe touch a hammer by year 7.2. Masterpiece boss fight to rank up. Craft a masterpiece worthy of the guild. Elders basically your thesis, but with molten metal. Fail the quality check. Back to side quests. Polishing horseshoes until your beard graduates. Magnum come rusty. 3. Crafting cooldowns and seasonal XPWOL trade. Only farm XP during shearing season. Glassblowers locked out every winter because furnaces doubled as town sauna. Productivity apps equals sundials. Missed deadline equals darkness penalties. 4. Guild dues and loot crate perks. Monthly dues scored access to secret handshake, communal tool chest, and the coveted don't break my stall windows protection buff. Premium tier unlocked lunchhand learns. With the alderman and a commemorative pewter mug. 5 trademark. Recipe drama and recipe.com Bakers Guild patented the EXACT diameter of a penny loaf. Rival pastry startups sued for crumb infringement. Enforcement squad measured muffins with calipers like medieval FBI. Flour Bureau of Investigation. 6. Merchant. Caravan. Influencers, long-distance traders were the verified accounts of the day. Exotic follow count, silk drip, and tales of you've probably never tasted this spice. Sponsored content equals showing off rare oranges at the tavern for free rumor engagement. 7. Sumptuary. Quotas, as dress code KPIs tailors tracked revenue by how many gold threads clients legally could not should wear. Extra sparkle, hidden inside. Seems like black market bling DLC. Void fashion police rate dash, Lyman terrors. Side hustle alchemy and monetized hobbies after hours. Cooper's brewed mead, Scribe's moonlight illustrated fanfic bestiaries. Tanner's crafted limited edition plague masks. Etsy prototypes, centuries early hand-stitched. Single origin, slightly cursed. 9. Strike tactics and artisan patch notes when guilds felt underbuffed. Soft-launched Blue Monday protests. Everyone wore sad dye batches and price gouged. Nobles fancy hats until patch 2.0 wage bump rolled out. 0.10. Retirement plan equals monastic quiet quit too old for forge fumes. Pivot to monastery. Guaranteed meals. Minimal KP is chant hourly. Copy psalms. Stellar moral branding. A final perk. Heavenly equity package with eternal choir seating.